Hello, very good evening to you. Welcome to ITV News and to Wednesday's calendar.
Hello, here are tonight's main stories.
From the streets to the cells behind the multi-million-pound smuggling gangs ferrying drugs, phones and weapons into our region's jails.
You know, it's a supply and demand thing. There's always going to be drugs in prisons. Within the first few days I experienced a parcel of illicit items being thrown over the fence into the yard.
Ambulance service, is the patient breathing?
I just look, I'm on my own. I think I'm having a heart attack.
Life lessons. A Yorkshire ambulance worker who almost died from cardiac arrest spreads the word about CPR.
In sport, the Champagne's on ice. A huge night ahead for the Sheffield Steelers as they bid to reach the Champions League knockout spots.
And the good, the bad and the elderly. How these sharpshooting care home residents wrote and starred in their own Western movie. But first tonight, to the ongoing fight to keep drugs out of our prisons as police launched a fresh crackdown on the smuggling gangs.
In a 10-hour operation focused on HMP Doncaster, almost 300 staff and visitors were searched and cells raided, yielding psychoactive substances and banned electrical equipment.
But one reformed prisoner has told our reporter Michael Billington that the war on drugs inside can never be won without breaking the link between demand and supply first.
One brazen drug swap between a visitor and an inmate, which helped to bring down the UK's biggest ever prison drugs smuggling plot at HMP Lindholm.
On the 19th of October, iPhone found in Whittingham's cell, uncompliant with staff.
At the heart of the gang, inmate Joseph Whittingham, whose cell was searched as part of the investigation. He'd recruited nursing assistant Amy Hatfield, who smuggled spice into the jail in Doncaster in Ribena bottles. In total, the gang flooded the prison with more than £1 million worth of drugs, knives and mobile phones.
Within the first few days I experienced seeing a parcel of illicit items being thrown over the fence into the yard, and you know, just like that you can see how easy it was for these illicit items to make their way into a secure environment like that.
Former prisoner Mike Thompson served a 14-month stint in 2 jails, including HMP Doncaster. He says during his time on the inside a decade ago that drugs and drug use were commonplace.
You know, it's a supply and demand thing. There's always going to be drugs in prisons. There's drugs in society, so long as there's a need for them.
Now at Mike's former prison, police and staff are mounting a fight back. In a dedicated one-day operation to prevent smuggling, almost 300 staff and visitors were searched. The prison walls subjected to heavy surveillance to prevent contraband being thrown over to inmates inside.
Just in this year alone, we've had 41 prisoners have been trying to smuggle contraband into the prison when they've come in as new receptions. 6 prison visitors have been arrested when we've identified they've been trying to smuggle something in, and that's identifications by drug dogs. We have a zero-tolerance approach to drugs and contraband in prison because that can fuel violence, bullying, and it puts both staff and prisoners at risk.
Mike now works with offenders, ex-offenders and addicts in South Yorkshire, using music as a form of rehabilitation. He believes without better support for inmates struggling with mental health and addiction, prisons will never be able to counter the toxic effects of drugs behind bars.
From the perspective of the prisons, they need to be seen to be doing something, but it is only dressing the wounds. It's not getting to the core of the issue. And I think until those needs are met, the demand on the prison service, or the burden that's on the prison service to deal with issues around drugs and violence from drugs and antisocial behaviour and all of that will only carry on.
That was former prisoner Mike Thompson, ending that report by Michael Billington. On to more of the day's news. And a man from the Peak District who went on the run with his teenage son after stabbing his wife multiple times and locking her in the family home has been jailed. Mark Taylor's attack was so violent that the knife that he was using broke After he fled the scene, his wife managed to get the attention of a passerby through a window, who then called an ambulance. Taylor was caught by police and, after a trial, was found guilty of attempted murder. He was sentenced to 23 years in prison.
Well, next, what's been described as a ridiculous lack of specialist autism training for secondary school teachers and the severe impact that's having on neurodiverse children right across our region.
Well, currently only 1 in 7 teachers have undertaken the training, and both parents and campaigners say it urgently needs to be rolled out in all schools.
One mother from Sheffield, whose daughter is on the autistic spectrum, told Calendar that it's left her walking a tightrope every single day. Chris Conway has the story.
For Heather's daughter Emily, who's autistic, school life can be difficult at times.
To be able to ask for help, she doesn't want to put her hand up and say, I'm struggling in front of everybody, so she'll just go inward and get upset, and you've just got to hope that someone notices. And when they do notice, they can do something about it before it's gone too far and she has to leave the classroom, which she doesn't want to draw attention to herself. She doesn't want to get bullied for getting upset in class. So it's a really hard tightrope that we walk every day.
Heather, who lives in Sheffield with her daughter, says things have been made harder because not all staff stick to a plan of adjustments agreed to suit Emily's autistic characteristics. She believes specialist autism training needs to be rolled out across all schools in England.
I find it ridiculous that you've got such a percentage of your students that will be autistic or will have some kind of neurodivergence, and the teachers haven't got training in it. How can you teach your class? How can you get the best out of your students if you're not aware of what they need? I don't think you can.
Currently, special educational needs coordinators in school work with the parents of autistic children to agree a plan, often involving extra support, different ways of teaching, or separate lessons. Autism training is designed to help school staff better understand the needs of autistic pupils. But research from the National Autistic Society shows just 1 in 7 secondary school teachers have received such training. With nearly 3/4 of the 180,000 autistic pupils in England educated in mainstream schools, more than half of autistic students said having teachers who don't understand them is the worst thing about school. Emily goes to Forge Valley School, where staff feel mandatory autism training would be beneficial.
There's always ways that schools can improve. We're still learning. Like I said, we've got a lot more autistic pupils that are coming into schools, and teachers are really adaptive and they really want to try and do the best that they can to support the pupil.
It's a complete no-brainer when it comes to reforming the system to make it work for autistic children, and we think it would make economic sense too, because actually when you get the right level of understanding in schools, children are well supported, they don't need extra support, they might not need to go into specialist education, they might be at lower risk of exclusions. There are all number of positive outcomes.
Heather, who is also autistic, has vowed to continue to fight for change.
It makes you feel very powerless, that you're very limited as to what you can do to change the world for your child, when really it is the world that needs change, not the child.
And that was Heather Tingle ending Chris Conway's report. Now, stay with us because still to come tonight.
Yes, it's not been the best of weather days today. More rain to come this evening, but it's not as windy as it was on this day in 1987 and not as windy as it looks by the time we reach Sunday. All the detail in between a little later on.
Thank you, Kerry. Now, the MP for Spen Valley is putting forward new legislation to legalise assisted dying, nearly 10 years since MPs last debated the issue. If passed, the new bill would give some terminally ill adults the option to end their life. Critics argue the move could be a slippery slope, putting pressure on some to end their lives. But Kim Leadbeater believes the bill would reduce some people's suffering.
The law as it stands is not fit for purpose. We've got terminally ill people who are either taking their own lives under really tragic circumstances, having to go to another country to have the kind of death that they want, spending lots of money doing that if they're fortunate enough to have the money, often going alone without their families and loved ones for fear of prosecution, and often doing that prematurely before they actually need to because they've got to be fit enough to travel.
Dog attacks are fast becoming a daily occurrence for postmen and postwomen across Yorkshire. That's according to a senior Royal Mail manager.
They range from minor nips to really serious injuries, and the scars, both physically and mentally, can last for years. Kevin Ashford has more.
Sarah King, who's a postal worker in Rotherham, is still feeling the impact of a dog attack on her rounds 3 years ago.
It's been a nightmare. Left with permanent injury, nerve damage, circulation problems, struggle with my right hand, it's my dominant hand, and also mentally it has scarred me. My confidence has dropped to rock bottom. I am climbing my way up.
The latest figures from the Royal Mail show there were more than 2,000 dog attacks on their staff around the country. That's a 15% rise on the previous year, with a big increase, 148%, in cases that caused significant and serious injury. The man in charge of Royal Mail operations in the region says dog bites are a regular issue.
We probably have a dog bite most days across Yorkshire, and they can differ from an accident or a bite that requires hospitalisation to a little nip on the skin. But again, all of those dog bites put fear in our postmen, and you don't really know what's going to come from behind that door when you knock.
It's common for dogs to react to the sound of people like delivery workers approaching their home. But Royal Mail managers say owners should make sure their pets are, for example, shut in another room before the front door is open.
It's the least we can do to prevent our dogs meeting postmen at the front door. And I think that's good management in terms of dogs and visitors anyway, because the front door is often associated with these high arousal greeting behaviours. It's normally quite a narrow space in hallways where, you know, bags and shoes and it's quite, the person's having to walk in towering over the dog, and dogs can find that quite tricky.
Royal Mail says it will continue to bring private prosecutions against dog owners, to punish offenders and raise awareness of the need to protect its staff. Kevin Ashford, ITV News.
Yes, we must keep our postmen and women safe. Now, the ITV Evening News continues here at 6:30. Here's a look at what's happening with Mary Nightingale.
Coming up on the programme, a house explosion in Newcastle kills a 7-year-old boy and injures 6 others. Police are investigating the blast, which has destroyed the property and damaged neighbouring homes. In football, the New England men's manager says it is a huge privilege as he becomes the 3rd non-English man to take on the job. And from the wild west of Derbyshire, the premiere of a western whose cast is made up entirely of care home residents. Do join me for those stories and more at 6:30.
But you don't have to wait that long to meet those residents, because we'll have them on a calendar before the end of the programme, so stay with us. Now then, an ambulance worker who told an operator he was dying during a dramatic 999 call is now sharing his story in the hope he might save lives.
Mark Spedding, who suffered a cardiac arrest, visited a South Yorkshire school today as part of Restart a Heart Day. He was teaching pupils what to do if someone does have a heart attack.
Martin Fisher went along too, and his report starts with a recording of that emergency call.
Do you have any aspirin or medication containing aspirin available?
No.
No, okay. So just for now, we'll advise you don't have anything to eat. It might just make you sick or cause further problems.
I'm going, love. I'm going.
Those could have been the last words of Mark Spedding after calling 999. Mark works for Yorkshire Ambulance Service, but was off duty back in June when he began to feel unwell. Fortunately, a quick response from his service colleagues performing CPR saved his life.
Probably might have been when I was on the call. I don't know, because my memory's just not good from that day. I did think I was going to die. It's important to get more people trained, so when they're out there, if they do come across it, if they do recognise it, let's get in there straight away. Let's start doing early CPR where people can survive.
So today it was the turn of pupils at Penistone Grammar School to get some hands-on practice.
Yeah, I would be really nervous. I think I'd know what to do, but I'd be really nervous. I think this definitely helped in confidence.
You can give it a go and it doesn't work out, but at least you know that you tried to save someone's life.
In case it does happen, because you never know when it might happen.
It could happen to anyone at any time, so it's important to know how to do it.
Now this is Yorkshire Ambulance Service's biggest ever Restart a Heart Day. Some 172 schools across our region involved. The aim is to give these youngsters not just life-saving skills, but skills that will last a lifetime.
The overall survival rate in the UK for a heart attack is less than 1 in 10. It's a sobering figure that fellow Yorkshire ambulance worker Vic Chellaby understands all too well. A former pupil of the school, her father died of a cardiac arrest when she was just 11.
And it was all very traumatic, but we hadn't got a clue what we were doing. I think my sister rang the ambulance, my mum was screaming, it was awful. And we were trying to do CPR, but I didn't know what to do. So yeah, for me, this is a really important skill to learn because I didn't have the skills and they didn't do these days when I were at Penistone Grammar School.
Maths, English core subjects, of course, we're here to educate, are super important, but having that skill and understanding to help somebody is just fabulous. So we're really proud to do that here at Penistone.
Lessons today then for these pupils that could one day save lives. Martin Fisher, ITV News in Penistone.
Yeah, they're fabulous days, those at the schools. I've been to those in the past and had a go, and it's hard work.
Yeah, well, it used to be Rusasani. I don't know if it still is, but yeah, that's what we learnt on.
Brilliant. Right, on to some sport now, and there's a huge night in store down at the Sheffield Arena. More than 7,000 will be there to see whether the Sheffield Steelers can become the first British team since 2018 to qualify for the knockout stages of the Champions Hockey League.
Yes, they've already beaten some of the best teams Europe has to offer, and tonight they take on Pardubice from the Czech Republic. Well, Chris Dawkes has been down at the arena for us today.
Yes, a huge night down here at the arena. You know, someone said to me at the start of the year that the Sheffield Steelers in the Champions Hockey League is the football equivalent of, say, Rotherham United taking on the likes of Barcelona, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich. But so far they've really upset the odds and now stand on the brink of qualification for the knockout phases. You know, a victory here tonight against Pardubice would secure that qualification. Let's speak to the head coach of the Steelers. That's Aaron Fox. Aaron, firstly, good to see you. And what would it mean to the Steelers to qualify for that second phase?
Yeah, I think it'd be pretty impressive. You know, it's when we got the draw, we knew that the competition that we were going to be facing was probably the hardest draw that we could have received with the 6 teams that we've played. I think currently 5 of the 6 teams are currently in a top 16 playoff spot as well. So Pardubice just chomping at the bit to play us tonight to hopefully qualify as well. So we know it's going to be a very difficult game. What we've done has been pretty impressive. You know, you look at some of the teams that we've beat, how we beat them. It's not like we've packed the house and just got great goaltending every night. We've played hard, we've competed, we've pushed teams to the limit, and it says a lot about our group. Hopefully we get it done tonight and would love to qualify and pursue this a little bit further.
A win would secure qualification tonight, Aaron, but you know that even if you don't win, you could still qualify, but I imagine you won't be leaving anything to chance, will you?
No, absolutely. I think we're in a pretty good spot where we'll know exactly where we stand come puck drop. We've talked this morning, we've had meetings, we had the guys in for a skate, and we're going to go with that mentality to win a hockey game tonight, just like we always do. And then come 7 o'clock at night, we'll know exactly what needs to be done. But regardless of that situation, there's going to be 7,000-8,000 people in this building. Guys will be motivated to put on a good effort.
Well, good luck tonight, Aaron. Thanks for talking to us. Fingers crossed it's another special night down here at the arena for the Sheffield Steelers.
Let's hope so. Thanks very much, Chris.
Well, there's no ice here, is there? Warm today, wasn't it, Kez?
It was warm. To be honest, it wasn't quite as warm as I said it was going to be. I think in parts of Lincolnshire it got to 20 degrees, which is very warm. But of course, for most of us today, lots of low cloud and definitely a warm air mass, so just producing a lot of moisture, certainly over the hills. So Pateley Bridge, for example, didn't get any higher than around 13 Celsius today, but our temperatures have been very topsy-turvy over the last few days or so. So Sunday day was 10, last night we didn't get any lower than 10. Today we got to about 16, just short of 17 in those southern parts of the region where we had the thinner cloud, and this time last year actually was 19, so anything sort of high teens really isn't anything out of the question at this time of year in October. But this time, or on this day in 1987, which I can't quite remember, but a lot of people do because it was infamous, was the Great Storm of 87. It affected southern parts of the UK, catastrophically actually, but for us we got highs of 64 miles an hour in High Bradfield, and that was because we had what they now call explosive cyclogenesis, or a weather bomb. It was a rapidly deepening area of low pressure, and it really caught people out, and it was troublemaking. Now, I'm not forecasting that as we head into the weekend, but we have got a weather bomb, we think, starting to develop. It is, of course, our storm season, autumn and winter, but this area of low pressure on Sunday, please stick to the forecast as we go through the weekend, could give us a spell of heavy rain and strong winds. But I like to finish off with a positive, don't I? So if you want to vote for Weather Photographer of the Year, Weather Photographer of the Year, which I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, you've got 25 photographs to choose from, and voting from the public ends tomorrow at midnight. There you go.
Stunning photos
Amazing.
there from our region. Yeah, thank you.
Well worth a look. Now, if you're a fan of the Magnificent Seven, A Fistful of Dollars, or The Good, the Bad and the Ugly, then you'll soon have a new favourite Western to add to your collection. But you've never quite seen anything like this before.
Yes, because 11 residents of a care home in Bakewell, with a combined age of 948 years, have made a comedy Western. It's set in West Yorkshire, and it's described as a combination of Robin Hood and gunfights at the OK Corral. Tonight, there's a big premiere at the Town Hall, and we've been given, well, a sneak preview of what to expect.
You try for your life.
You are making a huge mistake.
Shut up and give me the loot.
A brand new feature film from the residents of the Old Vicarage residential home in Bakewell.
Hand over the loot.
I haven't got the loot. I've only got this ukulele.
The tale of Robin of Otley was filmed on a smartphone in front of a green screen and was written by the cast. The youngest is 70, the oldest just shy of 100, and it was a moving experience for everyone.
Oh, I loved it. Would have stayed every day.
Is this something you always wanted to do, being a film?
Never ever thought I would be, so it never came into my mind. But I shall never forget it.
Hello. I didn't know you were there. I want to tell you a story.
Based on Robin Hood, the film stars 96-year-old Jeff Hinchcliffe as Robin.
Why do you think they chose you?
Well, probably because I was a Yorkshireman. That's where the Otley comes in, because Otley's in Yorkshire, West Yorkshire.
I thought you was going to say it was because of your natural leading man good looks.
Well...
Have you got a favourite line from the film?
Just mind me Yorkshire pudding. You know what happened. You've got to see the film.
Well, the most unusual part would be when they sing.
Huh?
Elclimo Bartat.
Do you want to give us a blast now?
On Elclimo Bartat, on Elclimo Bartat, on Elclimo Bartat.
Hey. Stop, in the name of the King.
Hello, what's that up to?
I'm transporting these Yorkshire puddings to the King.
Playing the sheriff, 84-year-old Tony Jackson, who has Parkinson's.
Over the last 4 years, my health has deteriorated. I've had cancer of the throat, that's why my voice is like this. He lasered my voice box. Then I got prostate cancer. Then I had COVID twice. I fell down due to lowering blood pressure and broke my hip. They had to replace my hip. I've got edema of the legs, which is keeping me awake at night. And on top of all that, I was in a car accident. So, all in all, I've had a rough time, and I was ready for drawing the final curtain. But then we started on this, and that gave me another purpose. Now I have difficulty using a knife and fork, but my brain's still there. It's not destroyed that. So it's given me a new lease of life. Like you being here today, my mind has helped achieve that. So it's given me a purpose for living again.
Action. Tonight there'll be a red carpet premiere at Bakewell Town Hall, but for the cast it means so much more than the glitz and glamour of showbiz.
Stick it up your jumper. Everyone can feel involved. A lot of people have taken part in it, even if it's just the odd line or two, and I think they've enjoyed it. And that's important for somewhere like this. it helps you to just get on with things. Life's worthwhile after all.
Adam Fowler, ITV News, Bakewell.
What did you think of that then?
Well, it took us on a journey, didn't it? Crikey. I mean, it was uplifting, it was comedy, but then, yeah, there was sadness too, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was. But I tell you what, the phrase "stick it up your jumper" isn't used enough.
Oh, I do love that. Yeah, classic. Let's go to Kerry.
Good visibility on the horizon. TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
Yes, another disappointingly cloudy day. Warm, yes, but misty and murky, especially over the hills, and lingering for much of the day. So not the prettiest of pictures, but you've still been getting out and about weather photos at itv.com. So it's this trail, basically, of showery rain coming in from the south. It's been west, not best across the region today, and that will continue as we head into this evening and overnight tonight. A weather warning just clipping into the Yorkshire Dales for some heavy and persistent rain for a time, difficult driving conditions and poor visibility with low cloud over the hills, but everything easing off a little bit as we head into the early hours. It's still pretty mild. The winds will be mostly light and quite a lot of cloud, again mist and murk over higher ground as we head towards dawn, but it's a soon improving picture as we head into Thursday. 7:39 and 3 minutes past 6 are your sun times. So tomorrow, increasing amounts of sunshine through the morning, maybe some patchy cloud into the afternoon, producing perhaps a Pennine shower, but for most of us, we're dry, we're bright, and in the sunshine, it will feel quite warm, certainly with a brighter, if not sunnier story tomorrow, 17 or 18 Celsius, and definitely dry. You can see a few showers creeping into the southwest by the end of the afternoon, so they could move through perhaps tomorrow night, but as we head through into Friday, again, a bright and breezy day with highs still just above the average for the time of year. But we do have these weather fronts to contend with, and they are expected to approach us and migrate eastwards overnight Friday into the early part of Saturday. But hopefully, if we pull that off, Saturday is mostly dry and bright. The best day of the weekend, wet and windy by Sunday.
TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
There you go, not doing too bad by day. Certainly feeling a lot better tomorrow in terms of sunshine for sure.
Oh, nice.
Great, yeah.
Lovely.
Well, look, I tell you what, you can stick the late news up your jumper because Arif's going to do it today, not me. Have a good evening. Good night.
Good night.
Bye.